Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Johnny Sue was on the ones and twos. So we're going to just snap right into it today. We're going to be on the Political Vigilante in about an hour at 3 o'clock. So you can catch me and Fiorella on over there. But first, we had a very important show we needed to do because stuff has gone crazy here in L.A. With the elections. You know, I'm calling it elections gone wild because it is that type of election. You know, Johnny wrote this whole thing about, you know, it's an algorithm. We've been sitting down studying. So we got this black notebook and we went out and visited some centers. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over the centers and what we experienced, even date back to some stuff that Fiorella asked the registrar's assistant months ago. And we're going to kind of go through those experiences. And some of the experiences that were shared with us, we're also going to kind of pinpoint as well.
Yeah, and we're going to be covering this throughout the week, obviously, and into the California primary because nobody else is really doing this much election coverage. And we take it upon ourselves to be election integrity people because it doesn't matter how many reporters love Bernie and vote if your vote doesn't count. We saw that in 2016. So go ahead, Pasta.
So like we said, the system is designed to be a serious algorithm to cause all types of chaos, and they use many methods to kind of suppress your vote, especially the later vote, which is the progressive vote, which is the Bernie Sanders vote. So we're going to start with the list of inaccuracies. Number one, the locations. Fiorella asked Jeff Klein, who Jeff Klein is Dean Logan's assistant, the Registrar of California, about her concerns about the precincts being closed because there were many more precincts open, and now they're reduced down to vote centers. And this is what Jeff Klein had to say when it came to the vote centers when Fiorella asked him straight up.
Reduced, but the amount of time you have to vote is expanded, correct?
So this is a question that comes up a lot. So currently there's about 4,800 polling places countywide, but you're only allowed to vote at one of those locations on one day. So at the high point, we'll have 1,000 vote centers. So raw number wise, yes, we're going obviously 4,800 is, well, 1,000 is smaller than 4,800. But the difference is in terms of convenience, we're now instead of one location out of the 4,800 on that one day, you'll now have 11 days where you'll be able to vote at up to 1,000 locations. So people look at the number and they say, wait a second, it looks like it's not as convenient, but it's actually more convenient because you have more options.
So we have
Okay, so if you guys caught that, 4,800 to 1,000.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they frame it like, oh, this is great. You're going to have 11 days to vote. You're going to have plenty of time. There's going to be less centers, even though more and more people are registering to vote. But at least you're going to have 11 days to do it. But Pasta.
Yeah. Well, number one, they didn't get the word out on that. They really didn't. They have all this money to spend. We heard a couple radio ads. We've seen a couple small billboards, but people don't know. And you actually had a follow-up question there, and you told them, it's like, well, I'm a little concerned about that because now a lot of people aren't going to know. And we've had problems in 2016 with the voting centers, the precincts at the times, not having enough of them. So what's going to happen on this day, and how are you going to inform the people? And he said digital, this way, that way. But as we see right now, a lot of these vote centers aren't even open, fam.
Right.
Most of them, there's like one per city that might be open. Johnny and I went around to 10 different vote centers, and a lot of them don't open until the 29th, which is 4 days before the election.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's then at that point, you're lying because you're 7 days behind.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're telling people they had 11 days to vote when obviously they're only going to have 4 for the majority of these places. And of course, Panorama City, where you guys went, happens to be one of the poorest, most minority occupied cities of LA County. And don't tell me that that's just a coincidence, but okay.
The one center, now me and John did justice. There were 3 centers in Panorama City, 3 centers listed on the website that are supposed to be open in Panorama City. 2 of them we went to first are not due to be open until the 29th. So we went to those first just to make sure. Then we went to the third one, the only one in Panorama City, and this is what we experienced. All right, here it is, vote center. Let's see. I'd stop right here. Jump right out with these sorts of people. How you doing? We're open for business today? What do you mean?
We're not working yet.
Yeah.
Why?
There's something wrong with some of the equipment.
Yeah,
So
they in there working
No.
on it now.
Yeah.
Yes, this is,
So you can see that was at the Vote Center at 8801 Kester Avenue, the only one that's supposed to be open in Panorama. Family.
And it
Guess
wasn't
what?
open.
Wasn't open.
Okay, and I feel really bad because the poll workers do seem concerned. They're like really upset about this whole situation because they have no power. I mean, they're being told what to do by somebody above them, and somebody above them is being told what to do by somebody above them, and that is how the chain of command operates in the LA County Democratic Party.
Yeah, and going on those poll workers, which brings us to our next point, which I have in the beautiful black book here, which we've documented everything. The lack of training by the poll workers. Almost every single poll worker, except for one fam, had only an 8-hour day, 1 day of training. Now, that might seem like a lot, but it's not. This is a brand new system. There are brand new laws. The whole thing is totally different. And 1 8-hour day is not sufficient at all. And here's the thing. As we went around from vote center to vote center, we asked questions. We asked everybody the same set of questions. We wanted to see if they had all the materials, if they knew all the laws. They all were, nobody was on the same page. You can literally go to one poll vote center and get a different answer on
Absolutely.
each one, especially when it came to the crossover, especially when it came to changing the registration, especially when it came to be what's the difference between a conditional ballot versus a provisional ballot versus a regular ballot and who can cross over. Nobody was on the same page. In fact, only one location out of the 9 we went to, which was Burbank, right? Which didn't break out the cards. Other than that, no vote center fam
Which
was
cards?
ready to
Which
play.
cards show?
Oh, well, I got the cards coming up in a little bit too. We're going to show you these and stuff. That's on the next part, which is the machines and materials. So yes, that is my biggest concern: is that these poll workers are just going to be intimidated. They're not going to know what's going on. And on March 3rd, Super Tuesday. It's a disaster looking to happen, fam.
So the poll workers are intimidated. We have only 1,000 or even less, obviously, because most of them aren't even open yet. Polling centers. You can vote anywhere you want, but of course, obviously, the bigger, most populous areas are going to have more people, so that's going to be a problem as well. Most people, a lot of people have voted by mail, yet we don't really know where those ballots are going. And then also, we have so much confusion over the provisional ballots and all the things which we will go over later and throughout the week. But Pasta, the machines are a whole other thing.
The machines, there's not enough machines in these locations. Most of the locations, this brings me to my number 3 point, which is machines and materials. Most of the locations had 20 machines or less. Some of the there was like 2 locations that had more than that, but for the most part, the BMDs, the ballot marking devices, they only, out of 2 out of 9 locations had this particular card too as well. When you talk about materials. Now, a lot of people don't know we have a new voting system.
Right.
They're
a lot
really
of
going
people
to be
don't
hit.
know.
And this is going to be a whole new experience for them. They got to use a machine. So these particular new voting experience cards are supposed to be there. Only in 2 locations out of 9 did they have them. Only in 1 location did the poll worker beforehand say, when you're using this machine, there'll be a little more button on the bottom that you have to press. Right. Only 1 poll worker really alerted us to say, hey, listen, within this machine, there's going to be some problems. Not to mention that, fam, we went to 1 location, it was 1 voter. She was a poll worker. And we talked about this, the jamming of the machines. It was jammed. And nobody wanted to touch it. It was like, oh, we're not touching that. We're not touching that.
They're trained to fix it. And it's in the manual.
It is.
Actually, that is actually not necessarily correct. They're trained about it, but they're not allowed to fix it. Only the lead is allowed to fix it. And and that's actually what the problem is. That's why they don't, because they're not supposed to. They're told to to respond to whoever's above them and say, oh, they are only the ones allowed to fix it. Everybody has a position where they stick to, and that's how it works.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing too. Those are even murky because in certain spots it's like only a lead can touch the ballot.
Yes.
We went to the location in Burbank, the one location we thought was good. The only mark they didn't have this card. They were like, oh, we can fix it. We'll go over there. Like, you could start. They were very confident at this particular polling place. They had a lot of poll workers who were, but it was the only place. And me and Johnny said, we got to send people to this place, make sure they get that card and send it there. But these jamming mechanisms are going to cause problems. I suspect you're going to see a do not work and a sign hang over the machine.
Yep.
Even reducing the amount of machines they have already, which is small, and it's really going to cause a problem.
Yep,
Johnny?
absolutely.
Parking, number 4. Now, you might think this is something simple, but Johnny looked and counted the parking spots at each place. One place in San Fernando had 8 parking spots in the back. 8. 8 in Los Angeles. And in the next voting center was 3 miles away from it. So, Johnny, the parking, you saw it. only that Burbank location was maybe adequate. Even the one in Eagle Rock had small amounts of parking for parking night when we parked off to the side.
Yeah, the Rosemead one had a lot of parking because it was it's right across the street from the library.
Yep.
But if it's operating during the library hours, then that
Forget
might be
about
a problem.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem. So parking, not sufficient. I was like, who picked these places? And hopefully during the 29th, when a lot of these places open, there are some at some schools and some other places where people can park. But for the most part right now, that's a major concern of mine. The one in San Fernando, I'm like, uh-oh. Because it was on a busy road. It was a lot of restaurants around. It's going to be a shit show. Number 5, and this is where we talked about the IPoll booklet. Now, first of all, it's an electronic system. It's online set up where they have iPads where they check you in. But we said a lot of the problems are going to start with this IPoll process. You know what I'm saying? This IPoll booklet, if it doesn't have, if the internet goes down, what is going to happen?
So just to clarify, the e-poll book is what the
Yes.
poll workers have. It is what they use to look you up.
To check you in.
Exactly.
Instead of a voter list.
Exactly. Instead of a voter list. The e-poll book is what is connected to the internet.
Yes.
It is what has this database. It's what has this information. And it is what is actually mostly not secure. It is what we were told by several of our poll worker friends and people who have voted that it can be accessed.
Yep.
By people who have the code to access it. And if your name is somehow not on that roll, if it hasn't updated or whatever, because people are now able to update the registration, it's going to mark provisional.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can do about it other than demand to not get a provisional ballot and have the poll worker pretty much lie to the computer and override the system.
That's right. They're going to have to lie to the computer, and sometimes they're not going to do it. We already experienced the place right here. Okay, so it was incident number 5, and it was in Eagle Rock. Outside, we spoke with 3 voters who registered on February the 16th. They had screenshots in their phone showing me that they registered on the 16th, okay? But they were not in the system. They were given provisional ballots. And it was a Latino family, whatnot. They didn't want to cause too many problems. So they took the provisional ballot, and they went on. I suspect this to happen over and over and over again. Even the person we brought in to interview, which we're going to get that set up eventually, he even said until he gave them their license, they didn't find him in that e-poll book.
Yeah.
And they tried to force provisional. Now, he was smart enough to say what you did, fam. It's like, I ain't taking no provisional. And eventually they got him they figured it out and they got him a real ballot. But how many people are going to take that provisional when told they have to
Exactly.
take a provisional?
And again, for the record, Greg Palast calls provisionals placebo ballots. They will not, most were
ballots.
not counted. I'm telling you. And even if they are, they're not counted to after the fact. They're going to make it look like somebody else is the winner.
Yeah.
So do not take that provisional ballot if at all cost.
Yeah, so we're going to go over this real quick.
If you're not in the e-poll book, you get a provisional ballot.
Pretty much.
Pretty
That's
much.
a new registration.
But
on
make
that.
sure you demand,
Exactly.
make sure you demand again and again, and also bring an ID. You shouldn't have to, but
Bring it.
Bring
And
it.
if your address doesn't match your ID, make sure you have something like a bill that match your address. But the system is set up to crash badly, fam.
Yeah.
And some of the methods they were using in 2016, they're using again. It's this
Yeah.
form of chaos where people aren't sure. It's just going to make the lines that were in Arizona in 2016 when they closed 70% of the poll places there. And the lines were ridiculous. It's going to make it look like the kiddie line, what we're going to see on March the 3rd. And
Worse than Chick-fil-A.
it's going to be worse than Chick-fil-A.
in and out.
And the difference between conditional and provisional ballots, fam, let's get into that right now because I think you have some stuff over here that you want to talk about.
Okay, so they sort of invented this thing that there's a difference between provisional and conditional ballot, and it says what is CVR voting, and that's conditional voter registration. So this is it's a little different, but it's pretty much the same thing. It goes in the same envelope as described by our poll worker friend. So this is in the California Elections Code section 2170. It says conditional vote registration. It basically means a properly executed affidavit of registration that is delivered by the registrant to the county elections official and may be deemed effective pursuant to this article after the election official processes the affidavit, determines the registrant's eligibility to register, and validates this information. So basically, you need to, if you are a new voter, or if you change your registration but you bring an ID and the proper documentation, they may still subject you to a conditional ballot. If you don't bring an ID and you do that, they give you a provisional ballot. But at the end of the day, they both still have to be proven to be valid.
Yeah.
And they are placed in the same envelope.
Yeah.
So technically, really they're different, but overall they're the same thing. And they also have to mark them. And I'm expecting in the chaos of everything, they're just going to be put on as the same thing.
Yeah.
And a provisional ballot, fam, is what you get when you are a new voter and when you don't have the documentation to prove that you change your registration, your address, and all of a sudden, like, oh, it doesn't match your ID and you don't have the documentation to prove it, you're going to get a provisional ballot. If you are not on the voter roll, you're going to get a provisional ballot. And the problem that this gentleman that he interviewed and that we're going to be interviewing, showing these videos, is that new voters who have changed their registration in the last 4 years are often not updated in the system. So either they're not in the voter roll or they are marked as a new voter, even though they're not necessarily a first-time voter. They are marked as a new voter because they changed their registration within the last 4 years.
And I'm going to point this out here because this is good, because this was day 3 of the voting. It was incident number 6. We went to Duarte. When we were talking about conditional and provisional ballots, the thing that really irked me at this place is that they were very like Democratic friendly, because we were asking all these questions like, well, I don't think the Republicans are going to let you come over and vote. I think you get a provisional. You can't change your registration. I'm like, I can't sign an affidavit, go from Republican, my friend, to Democrat and vote. He's like, I don't know. I don't think so. But the Democrats, let me tell you something. We're confident all the provisional ballots and all the conditional ballots will be counted, okay? Especially in the Democratic primary. We're not like the Republicans. She had that attitude. So now this is in Duarte. Once again, another poor town and stuff like that. They're going to tell people they should not be this is irresponsible, family, to tell people that they know for a fact that provisional ballot's going to count. They don't know that. So they should be trained not to say that. And that was something that was very, very disturbing. That was in Duarte, and we got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
And
it says it in the poll book. It says, oh yeah, it'll be counted. That's all it says is
but it says it'll be counted as long as it is
voter
validated.
registration is validated.
And that's what a provisional ballot is. It's a ballot that's not official, that needs more validation by a human being before it's counted.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. Like, we don't know who's deciding what is valid and what is not valid, or where these ballots are going, et cetera, et cetera. And as you guys saw, this is the voter identification IDs that you guys can use, and you guys can look at these things. I'm going to be sharing a lot of these on my Twitter, on Facebook, so you guys know exactly what to expect. But this is from a friend one of our poll worker friends, because there are several now. It says conditional ballots are provisional ballots. These ballots go into the individual envelope that the voter fills out. When the ballots are turned in, the clerk's office, from what I understand, will then review those to verify if whatever missing information has been provided, to decide if they are going to count that vote or not. That's the whole purpose of provisional ballots, to put those votes under extra scrutiny before allowing them to count, if they are counted at all.
Placebo.
Here's the other one. I asked the question, if they switch back to NPP today, they're going to still be considered a new voter? I mean, according to your training. And he said, I wouldn't switch anything at this point. You change your registration in any way, they will probably be asking you for ID. And that's when you will likely get a conditional. And if you don't have that ID, you're going to get a provisional. And then down here, we have, this is in the poll workers book. And this is what the computer is going to say. It's going to say, okay, the poll worker seeing the voters greeted by the line monitor, directed to the check-in, and then if the computer says voter's record is found, okay, voter signs in the book, ballot is printed, issued to them, they go ahead and they do their thing, and they cast their ballot via the ballot marking device, which is the BMD. But if their record is not found, automatically or has CRV/provisional exceptions, which means it's going to show on the computer provisional, then they have to go and complete the pink slip. So if you see a pink slip, it's bad news. That means you are giving the placebo ballot, the provisional/conditional ballot, and then they have to enter that information, and that's given to the voter, but then it's put in the envelope, and it's a separate procedure.
Those are going to be counted by a person. And something to also point out, fam, is that when you have a conditional ballot, the screen comes up provisional. that we
Yes.
saw that from the training guide, and we saw the situation. And here's the
Essentially
thing:
the
when it
same
comes
thing.
as things as they get under pressure, whatnot, and it just says provisional, they're going to turn the screen and tell people is that them. And if the people don't know to look for provisional ballot, they're going to get a provisional ballot. And
Right.
by the time it's all said and done, they're not going to want to go back and do the process over and over
No.
again.
I mean,
this
who
system
would?
is designed to push people to provisional ballots, and that's the thing that they're
It's
avoiding.
all these
So,
little things that are going to add up. It's
Yeah.
not as obvious. It's these little things
mini
that are
things.
adding up.
Yeah.
And what is curbside voting, fam?
We
Have
saw-
you heard about
we
that?
saw
Okay.
that. We asked a little bit about it, Johnny. You remember what we said? It was like if it's a handicap somebody, they can't
Right.
come out, they can pull up right up,
The-
and they're going to be giving up a type of ballot to vote curbside. We were able to ask about it one time because we caught a poll worker outside one time.
I think they do a write-in
Yeah.
ballot.
I think it's a write-in ballot. They weren't exactly
It's-
sure, but
There's a lot of issues with this actually, and I don't recommend most people doing that because they're actually supposed to have ADA accessible. I asked about this. If you
Yes.
remember at the area we were in, we went to the polling center, and it's supposed to allow them to be able to vote. Now, this you have to go, and you can vote using the interactive sample ballot in ISB, but it's on your phone, and
Yeah.
it's not been working. It's the links have been broken. It has been giving people the provisional ballots. It has given like an electronic provisional ballot. If at all possible, do not vote this way because the QR codes aren't properly working.
Yeah.
From what I have been told. So
solutions, fam. What do you got?
So
Bernie
So-
isn't on my ballot.
So if Bernie isn't on your ballot, so what do? And this is our field organizer friend, awesome Melissa Michelson's on this. She said, if you are not registered with a political party and are declined to state or no party preference, you'll be giving a ballot with no presidential candidates. If you are NPP or DS, vote by mail and are waiting for a crossover ballot, or if you have already received your NPP mail-in ballot without Bernie, do not mark it or do anything on it because your vote won't count. You have to go to the polling center and say, I want a Democratic crossover ballot. I want a Democratic crossover ballot. If you don't say the Democrat crossover ballot, you will get a provisional ballot. They'll give you the wrong ballot. And today, through Election Day, go to any vote center in LA to cast your vote. Look up the voting center at locator.lavote.net. And if you don't find your check-in, ask to speak to a manager immediately and be ready to show a form of ID for clarification so they can look you up in another way because they might not find you one way, but they might find you another. And if not, you may be given a provisional ballot, but by all costs, try to avoid that. There is a Bernie hotline. I've heard mixed reviews about it. A lot of people say it doesn't help at all, but please do call it either way, 818-856-5083. And there's also more information at http://berniesanders.com/en/California. And you will not get a paper receipt that shows that you voted. So track your ballot at the Secretary of State California Government Office. So
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we have to get going here soon.
yeah.
But I mean, you have some other stuff you.
I just want to finish up with this thing
Go ahead,
right
go.
here.
Finish up right now.
So my other poll worker friend that is actually having starting on Saturday and is going to let me know how it goes, said, here are some notes I took at my training. Electronic system is used to be able to vote anywhere in LA County. Provisional ballots are said to be counted 3 to 4 days after Election Day. System may end up adding more provisional ballots, but they said it's not supposed to. This primary is a test for this system. This one to me was like, holy shit.
That's
they
what
are
we were
testing
saying.
out this system in this primary. They decided to test this whole thing out.
Let me give you another one. They're training during the primary. They haven't had the adequate training for this. So not only that, they're practicing on people, and this whole system is a test. The vote itself, the election is
the most important election of our time is now a test. in the state with the most delegates.
Yes, and the most votes in Los Angeles.
It's sure. Where Bernie Sanders is leading by wide margins.
Here's something we experienced too. Media must have permission to take videos or photographs. Johnny and I were told that they were not allowed to speak to media. That was at the second location we were sent to.
Well, we're going to have credentials, and they're going to let us, or I'm going to make a scene.
And this is something here too. Have to wait for the IT to arrive when there are signs of tampering with the machines. We witnessed this as well. Nobody wanted to go near the machine. The lead didn't want to go near the machine. It was jammed. Let's wait for the IT person to arrive. I hope they got a hell of a lot of IT people. They should just assign 3 IT people to each fucking location.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be that. Jams will occur. Trainer said to expect that to happen.
Yes.
One person voting in one place, and it was Jam Fam. Less than fucking 15 machines in that location. It's going to be a disaster.
And the trainers seem to be more concerned with customer service and the integrity of the vote. Now, this can be because this is what they're told, but the people above them, this is how they have to be. Poll workers are diverse in age and ethnicity, but many are 40 above and may not be tech savvy. Trust me, they aren't, from my experience.
Yes.
This new law that was signed was mentioned to allow voters to register on the day of, but no guarantee of the ballot being counted that day, which means you're not necessarily going to be given
Conditional.
The training was very rushed, to
8
say
hours.
the least.
Each person, not one person, the one person we found had more than one training, and she did it herself, and she was amazing. She'd been doing it for years, but that was the only person we found that had more than 8 hours of training in a brand new system.
And machines are actually easy to use, but voters may have to vote provisionally if the software and the voter roll is not updated. That's
and that's
the thing.
what's going to happen.
That's the problem. So, and we're going to be talking about the rest later on, but I just want to, let you guys know we're going to be updating you guys, giving you all the information that you need. But this is we're not trying to be alarmist here, but here's the thing. I feel like certain people are not dealing with this the proper way. They are saying it's a conspiracy theory to be worried. Oh, we're waiting. Don't worry about it. No, Bernie could win every single state and lose California, and that's it. Like, I'm telling you right now, we have to be vigilant. It doesn't hurt to be extra vigilant. Why? Because of 2016, because of what happened in Iowa, because he's literally facing the entire Democratic establishment, of which the California Democratic Party is not only the most financially powerful, it is one of the most corrupt. And we know this. We live here.
We do.
Especially in LA. Especially in LA.
So if you got a chance, go out there, vote early, because it's going to be a disaster on
Please.
March 3rd. But we'll give more information on this. We got a lot of stuff coming to you. But that's it for now. We're going to get over to the political vigilante. If you haven't joined our ROKFIN, please do. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
Johnny Sue spinning on the ones and twos.
Convo out.
See you on the political vigilante.